Rings fans. Welcome to another wonderful, amazing episode of Voices of Arda. As you can see clearly, we have a goddess in our midst. We have Yavanna. We have the Valar of nature, KaliCosplay.
Hey.
Hi,
Just want to say
everybody.
how freaking awesome that cosplay is. You look amazing. Keep doing your thing. This is why you are the queen of cosplaying.
Thank you. I will not accept the queen title, but I will accept the compliments. There are so many OGs out there. But thank you. I'm glad that you like the green. I had fun putting it together. I always have fun putting them together, but this one had some details. So look for those videos on TikTok under KaliCosplay. And for this week, we have two very special guests joining us from the Swolhirrim podcast. We have Chris and Carlos. Yay!
What up? Shout out to my fellow podcasters.
Yeah.
We are kind of following in your footsteps. We both appeared on your podcast, and I want to say thank you so much for inviting us. And you know what I'm saying? Now that we have our own podcast, we want to say Nana and Boo Boo, we got our own podcast. We're gonna have an awesome show today, guys. Man, what's going on? How you feeling today?
Yeah.
Feeling good.
Tell us where
tired,
we can find you, social medias, all that kind of good stuff.
Go ahead, Carlos. This is your time to shine. You never do this part.
My time to shine. Oh man, everybody do this.
Time to shine.
Put me on the spot. You can follow the both of us at the Swolhirrim, at the _Swolhirrim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On all our social media. We also have our podcast, the Swolhirrim, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can probably find a podcast, which is the Swolhirrim.
Mm-hmm. And even on YouTube on occasion.
On occasion. I don't talk about YouTube anymore because we don't put anything on there. Although I think the last thing that we're putting on there is our podcast that we did with Kali.
Yep. That's gonna be
because of the cosplay, because
Yay,
she's the queen of the
cosplay.
cosplay.
That's right.
Yes, we're shoving that title down.
Yeah, I was gonna say whether you accept it or not, it's happening.
Oh, no.
It's done. It's done.
And not to be outdone, you can also find the Voices of Arda podcast on YouTube. So where they fail, we succeed.
Yeah, much better than us.
Yeah. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Google Podcasts. We're not fancy. We don't have the show up on the Apple podcast, but we'll get there one day. So, guys, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you guys, man. You guys are nothing but scholars and gentlemen. We appreciate you guys coming on, being guests. I feel so like I'm in the presence of greatness right now. Also, swole greatness, man. That diesel greatness. I'm a little diesel myself, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna leave the guns alone right now. I'm gonna put my guns down. You know what I'm saying? But we got a great show lined up for you guys today. We're gonna be discussing Rohan. Now, this is a really interesting and fun topic because of the show that is coming out, the animated show that is coming out in 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So literally, we are getting bombarded with Lord of the Rings content. We got the Rings of Power coming out. We got the Gollum game coming out. We got the Back to Moria game coming out, and we have the Rohan show coming out. It's the War of the Rohirrim. All about. We'll get into that. But before we get into that, before I get cut off very rudely by her,
you saw that it was coming.
Dumb joke that she's about to say.
I am. This is the one reason why I'm on the show. I'm all because I saw the first one and I was like, you gotta keep doing that.
You're a glutton for punishment. That's what's going on.
Yeah, you can blame me for that one. I mean, I do CrossFit. Of course, I'm a glutton for punishment, right?
Yeah, man.
So, I mean, I really hate to disappoint. I don't really have a joke today. I just have a story. Like I was at the gym. I was the only person who uses the speed bag, so there's no punchline.
love it. I love it.
I don't know where to go. I don't know how to transition from that. I'm lost.
So a speed bag is that thing at the gym where you like at the boxer's gym and you punch it. You punch it.
I know what it is. I'm just trying to...
The best part of a joke
is when you have to
is the explanation.
it.
Yeah, is the explanation you have to give afterwards.
Since we're giving out useless information. I'm hungry and my fiance made me dinner and she told me that was ready right before I did this podcast. So now I'm like, should I call her on camera and during the podcast and be like, Ma, the meatloaf. Meatloaf.
Do it, man. If you want to eat, please self-care before everything. You should know that by now.
The problem with that is that would require her making me a plate and then her embarrassing me when I ask for the plate, and she's like, "Get your own goddamn plate."
There's a
podcast, so I'm gonna.
There's a whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, what? She's gonna look at me crazy. Then I'm gonna be like, no, don't embarrass me. Roll her eyes. I'll still be hungry and embarrassed, so I'm just gonna wait.
All right. So we'll move this along so that you can get to your fiance's homemade dinner. All right, Rohan. Let's start.
Rohan. KaliCosplay. Let's get into it. So, what do you guys know about Rohan, first and foremost?
I mean, I it's funny because I was talking to Kali about how a lot of times doing the prep for either our show or other like shows, with how much I think I know, I learn a lot more. Like every single time I do prep for these things. And so like one of the things that I kind of learned about this, knowing it beforehand, but learned more so, was this idea that it very much is kind of based on the indigenous realms of like Ireland and Scotland, in that like these people existed far before Rohan existed.
Exactly. That was literally what I was going into.
Yeah, like they were around a long time before the king decided to be like, oh, this is your land. It's like, oh, thank you so much for giving me the land that I've been living on for so long, which, can go a lot of ways.
Yeah, they were around, during the time of like the Edain, right? They just
they're one of the they're a part of the, just like a lot of people don't know, the people of Bree are Edain, as well as the Rohirrim, as well as the Druidine. They're Edain, but they just didn't travel over to Valerian.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know that. So they were a group there. They dwell between the Vales of Anduin. Yeah. And that's where they were, and that's where they were living. So this is prehistory, before Rohan was Rohan, when it was known as the land of KaliCosplay. Now, as you guys know, and we'll get into that, they were bequeathed this land for, helping out Gondor. So when Gondor and Arnor were created by the Dunedain, you know what I'm saying? Gondor was very vast, and they actually owned and this is problematic. And this becomes problematic because you can kind of call it imperialism. They kind of took over lands that weren't really theirs.
Yeah.
They just kind of just said, oh, this is all ours now. So they took over the land of KaliCosplay. Part of that land, some of the Dunlendings were settled in. A lot of funky things were happening. Even before they got there, the Númenóreans that were settling on the coast, cutting down trees in these lands and things like that, caused a lot of problems. But Gondor settled by Isildur and Anarion, and they had their kingdom. And it being so far-reaching and vast, there really wasn't a place for them to do anything that far west. You know what I'm saying? So they really basically just planted Palantir, and they had a Palantir in Orthanc. They built a tower there, and you know what I'm saying. Later on, we know that they built Helms Deep. We'll talk about that later. But it's not a vast population there, so it was really open lands. and we know their main force and their main kingdom was Gondor, and behind the mountains there. So they have this land, and they have a lot of problems. They're having problems with Mordor. They're specifically having problems at the time after Mordor, after Sauron's defeat, with the Wain Riders. The Wain Riders are the Easterlings who ride chariots. Easterlings, they're having problems with the Southrons. They're also having problems with the people from Harad, so the Haradrim, and they're also having problems with the Corsairs of Umbar. And they're literally getting attacked by these people constantly, all the time, constantly getting attacked by these people. So in one of these such instances, they literally are being attacked by the Wain Riders, and who comes to their aid? I'll let you guys.
Carlos, go ahead, man.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know this one.
So this was during so this is during the time of Errol the Young.
Yep.
And yeah, what happened is who was it? Kirion, the steward of Gondor at the time, was asking for aid through them, right? And this is one of the, I would say one of the many times that the Rohirrim, like not the Rohirrim yet, right? But the Rohirrim kind of comes to the aid, because they came in even earlier and kind of cleared out what was left of the Witch King as well.
They were
at a certain part.
They were up north at that point.
Right.
Exactly.
When they get now I remember. So when they get the arrow, right? When they get the red arrow from Kirion, I'm probably saying it wrong. They're up in what used to be occupied by the Witch King of Angmar. And they're in a settlement called Framsburg, named after Fram. So see, I know that much. And so they come from there to go down to the plains of Kalinardon.
Kalinardon.
Yeah.
Is that right?
KnewBetta will correct me.
They've got a lot of like old English type words. Even the name Aol is like hard. That's a hard name.
Errol.
Yeah.
There's like an R in there that just doesn't.
I do like pronouncing
Errol.
Eorl.
So yeah. So these are not. They're not in league with Gondor at this time. They're literally just being asked for help. You know what I'm saying? Gondor is kind of reaching out, asking for help. Their back is against a wall. Right. And this is one of the coolest things that I found out. When Eol and his son and the rest of them come and they lend their aid, they don't just go there with no problem. There is a mist. There is a Dol Guldur is literally kind of blocking them, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's really cool that there's so many little subtle side things that are happening that you wouldn't even understand with Sauron interfering, and then Galadriel helps him with the clearing
getting
the space
rid of
out,
the mist,
getting rid of it, and they don't even know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so cool to say, oh, it's one thing to say, oh, they came down to help. No, other things and beings, that literally hold sway in between them, because if you know anything, Dol Guldur and Lothlorien hold the spaces in between where they have to go. And in the Lord of the Rings, in the Lord of the Rings, they say that those two places are constantly at war, fighting each other, not in the sense of war, physical war, but Galadriel and Sauron are constantly vying to see each other, but they can't. So they know that, okay, there's an evil there. I know there's a good there, and they just constantly at war in that sense. And then they have to kind of go through, and luckily Galadriel clears the way for them, much like the way was cleared for Rohan by the Druidane. Not in the sense that it was cleared, but they were shown a path to get around. So the Druidane and the Woses, the Druidane and the Woses made a path for them in the Return of the King when they were going to Pelennor. Same thing Galadriel kind of did, was like clear the mist and lead them through and let them go through safely without any hindrance. And they get there and they help out Gondor and they save them. And Gondor is so grateful. Literally, they gift them the lands that we now know as Rohan, the land of KaliCosplay. So we literally get the beginnings of Rohan right here. So I thought that was just a good place to start and to know where these people came from, because they're also related not only to the people in the north, but they're related to, if I'm not mistaken, they're related to the people of Dale a bit, like those peoples, and they're also related to the Bjornings, and they literally come, and now we have this strong group of people who love fields and horses especially, and now they have a giant field, a land of grass, and the perfect place to raise these horses, and these horses are magnificent. We'll get into them in a minute, but now is the beginnings of Rohan. And in a lot of ways, Rohan is more stable than Gondor.
Right.
It actually, really, the might of the Gondorian forces are really Rohan. They have the cavalry. This is why, if you watch the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, you're looking and you're like, okay, so Rohan had about 7,000,
Spears.
Riders,
right?
Yeah.
It's estimated that the armies of Mordor had 200,000 strong at this battle. So you're thinking there's no way, but the way cavalry works, it can clear much of the field there. So the might and of the Rohirrim is just something spectacular. And if you read the books, they were literally just waiting and praying that Rohan would come. So this is the beginning of those great warriors and those great peoples. And it starts off with a victory and starts off with their help. So,
well, and like you said, I think that biggest thing, and what probably most of Gondor, even though it was so long ago, what most of Gondor was really like holding to was the Oath of Aor. Hail
the Young.
I know.
Errol the Young.
You see
Earl.
a name on a page forever and ever, and then you try to pronounce it with your
I
mouth.
know.
And
I always just say Aol. I don't know why.
I know. I'm gonna call him
Earl. Earl's the dark elf.
Earl.
This is going to be the whole
no, not
podcast,
Aol.
just us trying to pronounce.
Earl.
But I do like that. Like, you think, people have probably been taught this. They've been taught this, handed down in Gondor, right? Of the idea that, like, basically the exchange was, here is Rohan, as long as you come and help us whenever we need it.
Yeah.
Right. And so Gondor was, I'm sure, was like, they're honorable men, like they're gonna honor it, like they're gonna show up, now whether or not they show up too late, right, is kind of that thing that's in people's hearts. But yeah, I think that adds to how cool that is. And that they were, like you said, like they weren't really a part of them. There was junctures between them, right? But they were far north at this point. But Gondor knew that of all the men in the area, these were the only ones not coming after them, right? And they were the only ones that they could depend on to help them out defeat some of the other men that are in the area.
And then call back to the Silmarillion. The elves literally do not fuck with anybody but the Edain, because they remember what the Easterlings did. And it says, and the elves do not forget it. So you'll never see the elves helping the Easterlings, the Haradrim, anybody else, but literally anybody descended from the Dunedain, anybody descended from the Edain. So even the men of Bree are descended from the Edain, as well as the people of Dale, and all of these are technically Edain peoples. So the elves will lend aid, like Galadriel did, when it's necessary, and they'll do that. But they do not mess with the Easterlings at all. They do not. Now, it's not technically the same Easterlings, but it's the Easterlings is Easterlings to them. They do not mess with them at all. They do not forget what happened in the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. And I wouldn't forgive them either. You know what I'm saying?
But to group the Rohirrim with them.
Yeah.
Seems a little. Need to be a little bit more judgment and a little bit more. What's the word? I don't know what I'm thinking of.
All right.
Well, it's kind of like Fingolfin getting caught up in the kinslaying there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whoops.
So,
can I drop a horse fact?
Go ahead, drop a horse fact.
Drop a horse fact. So Eorl's father's name was Leod. So Leod tried to ride a wild white horse, and he managed to eventually, but got kicked off the horse, and this led him to his death. So then his Leod's son Eorl sought vengeance against the horse and hunted it, but upon finding it, decided not to doom it, and instead kept the horse to be like a thrall of his, named it Feladoff. So now Eorl is just bopping around on a horse called Feladoff, and Feladoff is the first horse in the line of the Miras, an ancestor to Shadowfax.
Yes.
Kelly,
can you tell us what the Miras is?
Oh, the Miras is that line of like special kingly horses that belong, that are in Rohan. Is there more to tell?
I mean, there's some interesting theories on, a few things on where they come from. I mean, one of them is the fact, so the Rohirrim themselves believe that they come from Orome, or who they call
Nahar, his horse, right?
Yeah, so that's what they believe, that Orome brought him over, or brought them over, right? But I think we also get a little bit, and this is where one of my one of my first rants came from, was
the rant.
The Feanor rant, is that some of the horses that he brought over on the ship, that he told the other elves, like, hey, there's no room because we need to bring our horses over, and then set the ships on fire on the other side. That's where a lot of that line comes from as well.
Yeah, and actually the theory fits for both to work at the same time. So if we look at what's going on, so Orome rode a great steed, and we know that whatever animals they had in Middle Earth, they also had in Valinor as well. But the Valinor, just like Huan and things like that, any animals that were with obviously Orome were better. They were godly type creatures, just like the eagles, Thorondor. That's why Gwahir is so great. He's descended from Thorondor. Literally, the horse is the same. So Naha and his descendants, right? And then we know that one of Orome's followers, who actually is one of the 7 sons of Feanor, Kali.
Sorry, what?
This is where you pay attention and you answer the questions. You know what I'm saying? I said,
I zone in and out all the time.
One of Orome's favorites, literally, who is one of the 7 sons of Feanor, who was gifted Huan, is
Celegorm.
Yes.
The worst.
Literally, we have a waypoint between Orome, his animals, because Celegorm literally followed and would always be with Orome, and now we have, a way for Feanor to get these horses, because the guys didn't really mess with Feanor. He was full of himself, but he would give them the Celegorm. This is me just headcanoning right now, but this falls in line with the lore. They have these horses, and just like Chris said, upon Feanor tricking his brother and not giving them space on the boats to cross the Helcaraxa, they went over to Middle Earth, and now these horses are in Middle Earth there. Feanor gets killed. That's what you get immediately. Maethros gets captured. Maethros gets saved by Fingon. This is one of the things that heals the hurts between the two factions, the Feanorians groups and then the Fingolfin group. But one of the other things was, not only that, Maethros also gave many horses to heal the hurts. Now, These horses were then used by Fingolfin, also the vassals of Fingolfin, Theoden, and we know that the men of Hador also were a part of Hiflum, just like anybody else that was there, the other elves that were there. So they would probably have access to the offspring of these horses. And as we can see where we're going, somebody dying possibly got some of these horses. And when they went over after the fall of Balerion, these horses went over as well. This is where I'm assuming the metas traveled and got into Middle Earth from. This is a headcanon completely. Nobody go look it up and be like, you're wrong. But it makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes
Like,
sense with the with the canon.
Yeah, it's informed headcanon at least, you know.
Yeah, it's very informed headcanon.
Yeah.
So we have so Naha, then Rohala. It was the steed of
Rokalar, yeah.
Yeah, he was the steed of Fingolfin. So
That's right. Yes.
we know that he was a great horse, and
Yeah.
I wonder where he got that from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And then we end up back in the third age, and we have Errol, whatever his name is. You know, with the steed that he has, and then you know, its descendants, and then we finally end with Shadowfax. So.
Mhm. Yay! I'm happy now. We have talked horses. We can go back to discussing. We can go back to war if you like, but we have taken a moment for the horses. So.
Well, I mean, I mean, it's important. I think it's important to talk about the horses because that's their entire culture, right?
That is
Their
their
entire
thing.
culture is horses. They are I forget what Rohan means, but
Horse country.
yeah. So there you go. I knew it had something to do with horses.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys because I know we click very much so with things that we like or things that make us sad. We talked about it in our podcast. How cool was it? How freaking cool was it when the Fellowship was talking about how, in the Council of Elrond, how Mordor gets his horses from Rohan, and Boromir loses his shit.
Yep.
That this is not so. Like, it was so. I thought it was so stand up, and it showed the good side of Boromir.
Yeah.
And how much respect he had for these peoples. Don't talk about them like that. That's absolutely not true. No.
Well, also how close of a relationship Gondor has with Rohan, right?
Yeah.
Boromir is the eldest son of the steward of Gondor. He is the next steward of Gondor, right? When his father dies. And Rohan is their closest ally, bar none, right? They don't have any other ally as strong as Rohan. So for him to say that, he knows, you know, that these people are not in league with Mordor, right? They're not. And their entire culture is around these horses, right? When your entire culture is around horses like that, you take pride in them, and so you're not giving them to someone who you're not in league with, right? If you're constantly going to
mistreat them,
and literally use them as fodder, right?
So
like,
you know, so yeah, that was I agree. That was that's another.
Every time I read that, I get chills, man, because I'm just like, yo, this is the Boromir.
Yeah. Anytime I see a good side of Boromir, I'm like, yes. Like, I love Boromir.
I mean, this is the respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the topic, but I mean, you have to understand where the guy was coming from with his want for the ring, right? He's been fighting Mordor almost his entire adult life. Like, anything to give me an edge, I'm gonna take it. People do that all the time, and then they get busted for it.
So let's talk about the Westfold, because this is I know we're jumping around here, guys, but I mean, for the most part, most people know about Rohan in the sense of you know, they seen the movie, they seen how the land is, they seen Edoras, they seen most of these things. Let's talk about things that they might not know if they haven't read the book. We're going to get into the War of the Rohirrim. We're going to talk about, obviously, Helm Hammerhead. We're going to talk about the, you know, Hornburg and all that stuff. We're going to get into that. But a lot of people don't really know about the Westfold if you haven't read the book. So when Theoden says, you know, where was Gondor when the Westfold? First of all, that's bullshit.
Right.
I hate that. And I hate that. That's I hate that the most out of that movie. It's like, what do you mean? Where are they? But also we get to an interesting character who's not in the movies. I know you guys know who I'm talking about. Urchin Brand.
Yep.
And we can talk about him for a second. We can talk about interesting characters. We can talk about the setting up of Rohan, its structure, the fold, the Westfold, the Eastfold. You know what I'm saying? How they have certain defenses, how they have marshals of the Riddermark. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Literally, his son was the first marshal of the Riddermark, or second marshal of the Riddermark. Technically, the king is the first.
Yeah.
Technically, is the first marshal. He's the king.
Yeah.
Is Theodred was the second, and then Éomer was the third marshal of the Riddermark.
Yep.
So I think that's pretty cool. It shows a different military structure than Gondor or even literally Mordor, because technically Mordor has the strictest military structure.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's actually really cool. So yeah, let's talk about the Westfold.
Chris?
Yeah. I mean, there's what we're talking about in like the movie, right? So there's a few times where the Westfold is talked about. One of them, is a little bit when we hear about Wolf, right? And Wolf is one of the Dunlings that overruns Rohan, right? But another one of the times,
It's like the first succession crisis, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because this is what KnewBetta was talking about. This is kind of the story of Helm, King Helm, right? And that he took refuge in Helms Deep. But later on, what we get in the book version, or not in the book, but like the movie, like what you were saying, what a lot of people know of where was Gondor when the Westfold fell, that's actually more talking about this time where what was it? Urchin Brand. Urchin Brand was in command of the Westmark, right? So like you were saying, they are a cavalry type military, right? So they have split their area up into northwest, east, south, all of that stuff. And it's the horse masters that kind of are guards of that, which is great because
really cool.
I mean, you were saying how Gondor, when they first, like when they owned that land, they couldn't really do a whole lot with it, and it was really difficult for them to watch over it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But when you've got these guys everyone's on horses, right? And they're patrolling through horses, and that's kind of how they do it. It makes it a little bit easier to watch this entirety of everything. But the problem is when Urchin Brand was part of the Westmark and he was in command there, that's when the deepening comb. Yeah,
comb. Either one is right.
Yeah.
So he was the lord of that and the Westfold, right? And during one of the battles, Urchin Brand's forces were all completely scattered, and Saruman, all of his forces marched in, right? And they marched all the way to the Hornburg. Now the nice thing is once they got to the Battle of the Hornburg, the enemies were decimated, right? And they had to retreat back. But I mean, the hosts of Saruman marched and burned all the way through the Westfold. And it did not go well.
It's an important strategic place as well. It literally guards, so Isengard, the Gap of Rohan, all of that stuff is guarded by the Westfold. There's lands there that homes and things are there as well. You know what I'm saying? But this is literally what guards the Western Gap, and that's what basically fell first. So when they're kind of informing you without informing you in the movies where he's like the Westfold fell. It's like he's so mad about it. That's literally and super important. The fords are there. all this important stuff. So they literally was smart on Saruman's behalf to attack there first. You don't really know the significance when you're just watching a movie. You're like, so what? The Westfold fell. What about the Westfold? But the Northfold, there's really nothing there.
Strategic.
Really there. Strategic. And then the Southfold, there's nothing there as well. There's mountains. So literally, basically, if you want to, Dunharrow and all these places are more in the south, up against the mountains. So there's not like somebody's coming from there. And it also it's haunted as well. So they're definitely not going there. So it's not a problem. East and west are the problems. Yeah, obviously, we have Mordor and Gondor toward the east, whereas they knew they had that under control. But the west, they attacked there first. Saruman attacked there first. Now you make the Westfold fall, you weaken Rohan exponentially. You weaken the crap out of it. And that's exactly
you
what
can
happened.
walk through the door at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it sucks the location of the Wizard's Vale right there. It sucks. Yeah. It sucks for them because he's right there. Boromir's perplexed as to why they aren't just going there. Like, why don't we just go through the gap of Rohan through Rohan? They're my peoples. Gandalf and Aragorn kind of knew some shit was going down there, so he's like, nah. No.
Yeah, we can't. Otherwise, they would have just went that way.
This stuff is super important to know why they couldn't just waltz through there. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't even. You can't even get around. Saruman was a great protection to them. Saruman being in the Wizard's Vale, literally in Isengard being at the end of the Misty Mountains right there, literally was a great help and defense to them, and they trusted him. So
when he was on their side, right?
They were kind of not worried about anything.
And
they didn't think, hey, he's going to turn on us. Now the Westfold is screwed. Theodred died helping somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but it was around there, if I'm not mistaken, or he was sitting with the help. And
I think it was the second battle of the Fords of Eisen?
Yeah. It was one of the battles of the Fords.
Yeah.
So that sucks, bro. Like now you have your son, your heir is dead, and then you have the second marshal, a great commander, and then they always talk about Urchin Brand, and this is one of the reasons why I hate that he's not in the movies, because they talk about him with such reverence. He's like Helm Hammerhead come to life again. Like, it was amazing. Like,
well, it's Urchin Brand. It's Urchin Brand that Gandalf goes looking for.
Exactly.
Right, and in the movie, they roll it into Eomer, right? Eomer is there, right, during the Battle of Rohan, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or during the Battle
of
Helms Deep. Helms Deep. He's there. Yeah.
Him and Aragorn are they're the ones that say, this will be the hour. Let this be the hour we draw swords together. It's Eomer and Aragorn that say that to each other. So it would have been fine to have him. It would have still strengthened Eomer's character. Would have gave him some shine on his fighting if he would have kept him at Helm's Deep.
And then you would have that awesome pop in the movie, right? Introduced his character with like all these like cavalry behind him.
Yeah, with all these horsemen.
Lost opportunity, Peter Jackson.
It strengthens everything that you set up. You set up all these reasons for what? Oh, the Westfold fell. You show the burning of the Westfold. You show Gimli blowing the horn of Helm Hammerhead, and then it literally in the book gives you the tools that you need to put it in the movie
to give you that character.
Oh, just have when they're talking about how what they're going to do, and Theoden's talking about, oh man, Eomer's 10,000 leagues from here by now. All he needed to say was, I wish Urchin Brand was here, and then now people are going to be like, well, who's Urchin Brand?
He
has and mention, man, he's a great warrior of the Westfold. Mention it. Takes 5 seconds. You set it up. It gives all the payoff for everything else. Why do I have to do this shit for you people? Come on.
You don't get paid for this.
I should. You know what I'm saying?
Or do you?
Or some people. We know that's not true.
So guys, I feel like you have a great love for Rohan with your name being the Swolhirrim.
I think it just fits better though. I think that's why we chose it, right?
Oh man.
I mean,
we do. Yes.
Like I've always, we've talked about even in like our Discord and stuff. We talk about like what like race we would be and stuff like. I've always seen myself as a human, and in that more from Rohan than from Gondor.
Yeah.
Like that's just how, like, the leather armor instead of the steel, like the Theoden's sword is, I like in the movie, like Peter Jackson's version of Theoden's sword is, I love that sword so much. Like the two horse heads coming together, and it's just so cool.
Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, also
I like horses.
Also, Swolhirrim just
I like
sounds better than Swolgondori. I
Swolondor.
don't even know what I would do with that.
Is actually a perfect marriage. That is
Swolshire. Yeah.
Swolshire.
So we have the game coming out, guys. We have not the game, excuse me, the movie.
Yeah.
The movie coming out. The War of the Rohirrim. So can you guys, fill us in, let the fans know a bit about what that movie is going to be about? And, I know we mentioned Helm Hammerhead, but can you give us some, insight as to who Helm Hammerhead is and a part of that conflict?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the that kind of war, not the War of Succession, but that was that time period, right? When
this is absolutely the War of Succession.
Yeah. So and it revolves around Helm, who's Helms Deep, right? Other than that, I don't know anything else about the movie than it is one of Chris's favorite anime creators.
Oh, and you know that Eowyn will be coming back
as a
narrator.
Yeah,
sick is that?
Pretty great.
That's sick.
I looked into the cast. The cast looks great. Cast looks like it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be a good one. Like really good voice acting in that, and I'm hoping the artistry just is on point. But I mean, we're getting something that like you said, it's new, right? We're getting so much
new content,
new Tolkien content, right? Like we've got a few things that are coming out. I feel like there's some I feel like there's a little bit of money grabs with like the Lord of the Rings like mobile game, and even like the Gollum game. But even the Gollum game, we're talking about like a new story here, right? But with this, we're getting something really new, something that a lot of people don't know. They don't even know why it's called Helm's Deep. They just know Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep,
right?
It's just called that. That's not even its name.
Right.
Right. It's great.
That's right.
And so like it's really cool that like we're getting this part, and we're getting a little bit more of showing. I think my assumption with this show, considering the story, we're getting a little bit showing the wars between men. And we didn't get a ton of that in Lord of the Rings. Yes, there are like evil men in there, but it was mostly orcs that we saw, right? It's men and elves, dwarves against orcs. Whereas this, I mean, this is a full-fledged invasion by the Dunlings, right? And Wolf specifically, like he is like the leader of this, and going in and basically trying to take over that entire land. Which probably would have sped things up for Sauron once he got to that point.
And
but
Sauron.
And Sauron for that matter. But I just think it's really interesting how, I'm excited to see the bad guys in this not be like that pure evil.
Yeah,
orc.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I was going to say that the lines here are not very thick at all. They are thin as paper. So what I'm talking about, guys, if you are listening, in this war, if you're just thinking of Rohan that you know from the movies, you're like, oh, they're the good guys. But honestly, the war itself actually kind of got started by Rohan. So the reason Helm is named Helm Hammerhead is he had a council. So Helm was the king, and he had a council of people, and like his main counselor, one of the people in the council was literally part Dunlending. Because of there was a mixture of people.
Right. There were a lot of people in that land.
Yeah, a lot of people in that land, and it was mixed. And what they were trying to do was kind of get Helm's daughter. They're trying to get the people
The
kind of
houses
mixed
together.
houses
Yeah.
together. And
Mayor-
he suggested this to Helm. And Helm got so infuriated that he just punched him and kills him with one hit. And like his hand was a hammer. That's why they call him Helm Hammerhead. That's how he got the name. And he kills him. And his son's name is Wolf. The guy's son's name is Wolf. And he literally, this is the seeds that have been planted out. Or obviously there were already tensions between these two peoples, but this kind of is where the war comes from. Now Wolf ends up invading and taking over. Now this is so cool because not only do we get this great story, we get to learn about Helm Hammerhead. We get to also know that he wasn't necessarily right, and he wasn't he wasn't even actually a good king in that sense. Like he was very rash, and he just did something, and it wasn't like he was being the good guy. Like that was not a good move. That was not political. That was actually really bad. Now you got your peoples being invaded and taken over. You kind of can't get mad at the Dunlendings for that. Anything that happens after that, of course, you're going to be on the side of Rohan because of the story, which is great, fine. But Isengard gets taken. Now, this is where it's very interesting because when Isengard gets taken, this is how Saruman actually gets Isengard. Because after the conflict, there's nobody to rule, and Saruman steps in and he's like, "Hey, I'll take the tower.
I'll take it."
Nice
That's
view
exactly
from up here.
how we get Saruman where he is. It's so cool. The ties. Also, I made a TikTok about this. If this doesn't happen, there would be no Theoden, there would be no Eowyn, there would be no death of the Witch King. Literally, Helm and his sons get killed. Helm dies in a snowstorm, and his two sons get killed in the war. So literally, the kingship passes to his sister's son. And this Theoden comes from this line. Just like when Theoden dies, the kingship passes to his sister's son, Eomer. So it's literally awesome. Great lore there. Great progression of the story. Great. The line it's like who's right, who's wrong.
It's that gray area, right?
Gray is very gray area.
And there's a lot of drama in gray area.
I think that's the good thing is like a lot of I mean, to call it exactly what it is, a lot of Tolkien's unfinished tales, a lot of his unfinished works have a lot more gray area, a lot less good and bad, and a lot more like real life. And I think part of that is because he wrote it more as an adult. He's lived more life, you know what I mean? And so he kind of understands that life is more gray. But yeah, I'm full on with you. Like, it's funny because for a long time, before I dove too much into the lore, just watching the movies and the little bit that I knew, I'm like, oh yeah, Helm Hammerhead, like he's the good guy. And the more you find out about it, it's like, this guy was kind of an ass, actually.
He kind of was an asshole.
Like,
he was a badass. Don't get me wrong, he was a badass.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody likes that. But he wasn't.
But he was an elitist ass. Like, he's like, how dare you? You know what I mean? And there's always, how dare you? In every one of Tolkien's stories, there's always a father that's how dare you, but like
also one of the cool things that I was going to say, which I literally we get the tie-in as to why the Dunlendings hate the Rohirrim so much, which Saruman was exploiting that. Why? So now you get a history lesson. And it's just the perfect time to release this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because even in the movies, all we get is like, they took your lands, and that's like it. It's like, wait, what? Like when like we have no idea as like viewers or even really as readers, like, wait, when did this happen? Like what's going on here, right? But that's the thing is like that kind of kicked it off with Helm doing that. That kicked off this like, well, no, never mind. This is just Rohan's land, and you don't belong here anymore.
Yeah, it's like 600 years of, of animosity that's been brewing, which Saruman knew, right? Because he benefited from it because he got
benefited greatly, man.
And so he's
Saruman
like, you know what?
Yeah, Saruman is a master of manipulation.
I know we put kind of a pretty hard time limit on this, but I just wanted to jump in, and I don't know if you guys were going this way, but talking a little bit about Eowyn, because we talked about the line, right, and how she's going to be in the movie, and I just the fact that she was who she was, and like nothing meant more to her than her honor. Like nothing. Her life, like nothing meant more to her than her. I mean, her clap back to Aragorn is just fantastic. Like her whole, it's good in the movie. It's good in the movie where she says, people who do not fight with the sword can still die by them, type of like she says that in the movie. But in the book, it's so much better, where she basically just comes out and she's like, do you know what house I'm of? What, you want me to just be home cooking and waiting for the men who are never going to return because they're all going to die in battle?
But I am the house of Eorl and not a serving woman. I can ride and wield blade, and I do not fear either pain or death.
And then I think it's cool because it kind of mirrors, but it doesn't. But it you could see the house she's from Theoden's whole point of view, with Theoden wanting to live up to the name of his fathers and not be embarrassed, not to embarrass the house that he's from. He's like, I know we can't win, man, but we're gonna go fight anyway. And I'll finally get to, because I've been usurped and under a curse, and I've been fucking up. So I want to go into battle, and I want to go out. If I'm gonna go out, I want to go out, and my house is gonna ring bells. Yeah. And this is gonna be the end of Rohan. Then they're gonna write songs about this shit because you know what I'm saying. So and then Eowyn being like, listen, I'm of this house. Don't think I'm some kind of servant wench. It's not going down like that. And her killing the Witch King, like the chef's kiss, like so badass, riding with the men, doing all these things.
It's like you were saying about, like, at the beginning when you were talking about them arriving at Pelennor Fields. It's this idea of like, you have a subjective good, right? They're pretty like they are the good guys, right? In this moment, that have nothing to lose. Like they have literally nothing. So when you're pinning 7,000 of them up against 500,000, it could be 500,000. They're still gonna wreck house. Like they're still gonna do so much damage that it's gonna be hard to come back from.
Yeah. And this is where the movie absolutely eclipses the book one time. That ride of the Rohan will never be
every time.
It is literally so sick. So sick how they took Amir's lines, gave them to Theoden, the right perfect. It was just literally
it's when you see the fear in the orcs' eyes when they're like going to, I'm like, it's just so
it's the fear in the orcs' eyes, the look of all, of Eomer as he's like charging at them, right? And to your point with what you said earlier, right? Nothing left to lose. That is the face of someone who knows, like, there's 7,000 of us and there's, 250,000 of them, but
you see him make his mind up and he doesn't say anything. That might be more greater than his speech. When he goes, he looks and he just huffs. He's just like, and then he just starts giving orders like, forth and fear no darkness. This is happening. This is going down. Death, let's go. This is, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, when your battle cry is death, that's it. Like that's what you're going
they made their mind up, and they was with the smoke. And the orcs are not like that. And it's so cool because it's funny because we see the orcs that are like that, the Uruk-hai, face them in Helms Deep when their numbers were drastically lower. You know what I'm saying? And they actually were scared in a sense there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But then it was like they overcame that, and these orcs, no fear. They are being driven by one thing, the fear of Sauron alone. So when something makes them fear more than they fear Sauron, it is a sight to behold. And just like you said, the fear in their eyes, and they start backpedaling, and then the charge of that one guy, he should be given an Oscar.
Oh, when he's like really getting so good.
Marion Eowyn,
Yeah.
Like, yes, let's go, man.
So good.
Let's go.
Well, and like to be honest, one of the other reasons, on top of the lore, on top of the way that like the name just fits, one of the other reasons why I absolutely love Rohan is because of Howard Shore. Because that song, the Ride of the Rohirrim, like that part with the violin coming in and everything, I'm like, dude. Like
their theme song
perfection.
Is,
it was so good.
They are literally, like, got to talk about this. They are literally super well trained horse riders. They're well trained in their military aspects of what they do. Like when they circled, they know what they're doing. When they circled Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, they were on point with the spears. Like they ruined the Uruk-hai. They ruined them and killed all of them. Like they are on point with their shit. They know when somebody's in their land. Like they're on point. So the only downside to Rohan at the time was Theoden was under the spell, and this is something Saruman knew he had to do to weaken them to a point where they couldn't help out, and it almost worked. But thank goodness for Gandalf, because it almost worked. Because you take their heart, their king, and they're kind of a bit like flustered a little bit and don't know where to go.
They're leaderless.
So Éomer kind of stepped up and was doing things on his own. Thank goodness, he was kind of doing things on his own, but they were leaderless and they were getting attacked from the inside out. We got Wormtongue in there, telling shit, snitching.
Oh, brat.
And they're men of honor. And honor is huge, just like you said. So this is the Rohan that we know. You know what I'm saying? I think they kind of learned from the lesson of the War of the Rohirrim, because at the end, when they fighting after Helm's Deep, they let the Dunlendings go and say, hey, as long as you don't attack us again. And Dunlendings was like, what? We thought you were just same like the Easterlings that attacked the mountain. Literally, they let them go, and as long as you don't promise them not attack us again, go ahead. We're not evil people. Like we're not evil, and this is kind of to make up for. Like, hey, listen, we know we wasn't completely right in that war. I think it was like you knew better, you do better. Like my name, they knew, hey, it doesn't get anywhere. These are men that we're going to be dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
And I hope that is like the wrap up of that movie, that we get to see this idea of them being like, shit, we were kind of in the wrong too.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It's not a blank slate there. It's not like a blank.
You mean like a fast forward on that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That would be awesome. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there's going to be factions or people that stay in the pocket and remember, and it might cause problems. But as long as the vast majority knows, you can have peace for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But then there's always somebody who remembers, and then that leads to great stories in the future, and then bringing back and corruption. You can corrupt the people again. Somebody just hinting at, hey, remember when Rohan did this? And then, the future doesn't remember the past as well. So they're like, yeah, that's those guys. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. This was our land. What's up with this?
What's up with this? Going on with this? You know? Saruman played that part really well. And so Rohan is a really strong. They have beautiful armor, man. And like you said, their armor and their is immaculate.
Beautiful stuff.
You know what I'm saying? I love how much they care for each other, because Theoden was distraught when Hammer fell. He was not happy about that shit at all. And it wasn't even like it was Éomer. It was like, man, you know what I'm saying? When he's talking to Saruman about it, he's like, yo, did you think that when you was hewing Hammer's body, you know what I'm saying? Even as he lay there, like, and he wasn't going for it. That literally kept him from falling under the spell of Saruman. The thought and the hatred that he had.
Going back into it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see these people, and they're well respected, and they're really well flushed out. Rohan is very flushed out. Unlike a lot, like even Gondor isn't as flushed out as Rohan is. You get these people coming from the other side of the mountains, and you know that their land's there, Imrahil and Forlong and things like that, but you don't really get deep into them. These people in Rohan are very much more flushed out You kind of get a sense of that you know who they are and you know their character. So
Yeah.
I literally love Rohan. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with it and what we get. Yeah, the more that we get from it, I think the more Tolkien we get, the more Tolkien we get. Like give it all to me. Give it all to me.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
So guys, being that we had this conversation and we're gonna have many more because I hope to have you back. I'm gonna ask you guys a question right now before we get out of here.
Questions for the guests.
The question is going to be: if you could marry anyone in the Lord of the Rings universe, who would it be? Doesn't matter the race. If you could have anyone in the Lord of the Rings universe protect you, who would it be? And if you could fight anyone in the Lord of the Rings universe, who would it be?
Ooh, these are good questions. These are better questions than you asked me, Chris.
All right, I'm gonna go.
Mary.
I'm gonna have to think on the Mary one first.
Okay.
Fingolfin protecting me.
Nice.
All day.
Good
all
guy,
day.
Fingolfin.
Fingolfin all day.
Yay.
Feanor. I would fight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like I would fight Feanor.
I know.
Fight that guy. Fight that guy. I would say Celegorm and Currafin because they come in a package.
Oh,
but no,
don't. That's mine.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's real quick. Let's see. Mary, I've talked so much about her, so let's go with it. Arian.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah.
Arian.
I like that.
That's a good one.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right, Mary.
Maya.
Mary. Let's see. I'm gonna have to say, Luthien.
Okay.
Solid choice.
On that, the easy.
It's an easy one.
That's a good one. It's a good one though.
It's
easy for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no-brainer. So it's Mary protect Finrod.
Okay.
And
he's gonna protect you with his life now.
Yeah. Right.
And fight. We already said it. Caligorm and Corfin.
And
so you're Baron. In other words.
Basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Look, I have a hand injury, so
you do. Yeah.
I was one-handed for a while, so
that is awesome, guys. That is awesome.
That's a great question. I love that.
Yeah, that is.
I'm pretty sure question. I said I would marry Idril Celebrimbor. I definitely would marry her.
That is a good one.
My other two answers, I can't even remember. I might have said either Fingolfin or Ecthelion.
Okay.
For protecting, I can't remember. I'm sure I'll have to go back in the tapes. And then as far as who I want to fight, it just changes. It varies because it depends on what story I'm reading. I want to fight Eowyn sometimes. I want to fight Maeglin sometimes. I want to fight my boy Sauron. It's my guy. Wormtongue, I hate him. I want to punch him. Oh
yeah.
Celegorm, Corfin. You know what I'm saying? But like who do I really hate? I hate Turin. I would fight Turin. I hate
that hurts me.
I hate Turin, yo.
I get it.
Pisses me off, boy.
He makes some very poor decisions.
Dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my life. Like, dude, man. Listen, just listen.
Yeah, does anyone make as poor of a decision as Turin does? Ever?
I don't
like
think
all
so.
The decisions you've ever made, like Turin's made all the bad ones.
Yeah.
Like that's his thing.
That's his arguably thing. Ordre.
Or yeah,
terrible judge of character.
Yeah, because he listened to him, right?
Yeah. Listened to Turin, he listened to Celegorm and Corfin. Like, yeah, he sucks. He's gonna be next in my character.
Who you would fight?
Characters I don't fuck with.
Oh yeah.
KnewBetta's gonna have. We should make a spinning one for KnewBetta.
You know what?
He could just spit who he wants to fight today.
But see, I also like the idea of like fighting in a fun way because like Tulkas would be fun to fight.
So that's who I would choose.
Yeah.
Just because it would be like a rugby game. It would be like fighting another rugby player, just like, this is just wanton violence and it's great and it's funny and just him laughing the whole time. And,
laughing with you, man. So guys, I really, really love those answers. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you guys being on the podcast. We are coming up on our hour here.
Everyone's getting hungry.
I'm hungry. I'm gonna go. we had a great conversations, even though we bounced around here to there. We pretty much all knew about Rohan, but the things that we didn't know, we got to talk about. We got to talk about what we liked. The defensive structure, the importance of the Westfold. How it got started. All these good things. A lot of people don't know. That's the important thing. Literally, great content that people don't know information. They didn't know that Saruman actually got it after the War of the Rohirrim. They didn't know about the politics behind the War of the Rohirrim. So all these cool things is what we're here for, to inform, to have fun. You guys are literally everything that we want to be in a podcast. You're funny. You don't look as good as us, but
no, that's why we're not on YouTube anymore, man.
I've been wanting to get us off of YouTube for the longest time. I'm like, no one wants to look at me.
So, well, once again, man, it's just an honor and a pleasure to have you guys, man. Make sure you guys, if you're listening, follow Swolhirrim on all their socials. We'll have them run back their socials one more time.
Yeah.
And, you guys can follow them. So go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so we are at _Swolhirrim, right? That's on Instagram. Instagram is where we post like more of our workouts, more of our like swole side of the Swolhirrim, right? And then we're also on TikTok, and most of that is me arguing with people, honestly.
95% of that.
But then you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, any of those places. We're going to be on there, and we have a Patreon. You can all of that is in our link tree on Instagram. So on the Patreon, there's some fun little goodies if you become a part of that too. Kali knows about it. She's part of that. So, but yeah, find us, listen to us. We love it when people reach out. That's one of the things that we've tried to get more and more of, is just engagement. And I might not agree with anything that you're saying, but like, engage with us. It's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy just being able to talk to people, even if you're telling us that we're wrong. Like, that's perfectly fine. I'm down with that.
Perfectly cool. Just doing it in a respectful manner, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
Kali, I believe you have something you want to tell us and leave us with some information.
Well, yeah, usually I would do the self-care tip, but this week I figured I would have Chris do that for us, because he is a master of fitness things. And so fitness is self-care, if you can. So Chris, why don't you give us some fitness tips for our self-care this week?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that Carlos and I talk about a lot, and something that I've pushed a lot even in our Discord, is just the idea that movement is movement. So, something you were saying is like, if you're able to, right? And one of the things that I love to talk about is the scalability of anything. So we've gone through and we've talked about movements before, like a push-up. Right. A push-up is what we would consider a simple movement. But it doesn't mean it's easy. Simple and easy are two very, very different things, especially if we're talking about movement. Right. So if a chest to the ground and then lock out elbows at the top push-up is too difficult, then we can change that, right? We go to the knees instead. And if that's still too difficult, then we go off of a box or a table. And if that's still too difficult, we can push ourselves up against a wall and then come back out. And the whole idea of that is the idea of infinite scalability, right? Mm-hmm. You can still get that same movement in, and we can find ways for anyone who is even in any way it's difficult for them to move. We can find ways for you to move. And that's the key, is movement is movement. So it doesn't matter if you're running, we talked about this in our Discord. It doesn't matter if you're running a 5K every day or if you're walking to the mailbox and back. What matters is the effort that you're putting in and what that does for you and how that makes you feel. Right. So that's what I always like to put out there, is just remember to move. And there's so much stuff going on that, give yourself a few minutes every day to just move, however that might be, and reach out to us, the Swolhirrim. If you're like, I don't know how to move, we'll help you. right? Like we'll help you in that. So that's really what I like to tell people is just remember that there's always something. If you want to do something, there's always something that you can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Most people can all do our workouts that we post out. It's, reach out to Chris and he can tell you how to scale it if you can't do it.
Mhm.
I always scale my
Can't grow
workouts
those beards.
because, can't scale this.
This
is all right.
But
Guys, man.
That was awesome,
Oh,
Chris. Thank
awesome,
you
guys.
so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, and thank you to both of you again for coming on our podcast and for having such an awesome discussion with us
Yeah,
about
thanks for having us.
Rohan.
I'm so happy to be here. This
Yeah.
was great. It was weird not being the one running things. It was nice, but it was weird.
Yeah.
well,
I never run things, so
get used to it.
yeah.
Callie is taking
To
over
it.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, this conversation was great, and being able to have it with you two. I thank you for inviting us to be on this. It's awesome.
Oh, and a special thanks to you guys for hosting the trivia event. That was an absolute success.
That
People
is on
really-
YouTube.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can't thank you enough for that, guys. So
Yeah.
we
Good.
are
Good shout out. Yeah.
on the threshold of our time limit, so we are going to bow out gracefully, and we want you guys to have a wonderful night and look forward to our next episode of Voices of Arda, and of course the next episode of the Swolhirrim podcast. We literally should be popping up on the same type of things. If you're like looking for lore, looking for Lord of the Rings content, we are those people. We are those humans, those Edine. Well, except for Callie, she's Yavanna, apparently.
That's right.
Today.
She's a Valar. She's a Valar.
She's Goldberry sometimes she's a Yavanna. She's just these
Sometimes
wonderful
I'm Nienna. It just,
it's just,
change it up.
She's a chameleon. She does what she does.
Love it.
Good night, guys. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
have a
good
great
night.
week.
We'll see ya.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. This was great.